Good evening, guys. Hope you're all well. Welcome back to the Amateur Footballer channel and welcome back to the Starting 11 podcast. Now, there's been quite a lot of drama going on this weekend. Today, we are back with the deadly trio with myself, Joe, say hello.
Evening all.
And Michelle, say hello.
Hello, guys.
Now, I want to get straight into this. I can't lie. I've been looking forward to this discussion. Starting off with Man City 1, Leicester 0. Joe, start us off. What do you think?
Just a champion's performance, if I'm honest. It was a difficult game. Thought Leicester played pretty well. They did play on the counter, but they've played defensively. They were organised. And I've got to say, I mean, De Bruyne's goal and Ederson's save are two bits of... It's them world-class moments when you need someone to light up and win a game for you. You get a finish like that from De Bruyne. And I thought the Ederson save was fantastic as well from... who was it from? Tillemans.
Yeah.
From the edge of the box. A fantastic save. So I just think it was a really good professional performance. And I think it's the type of game, if I'm honest, some teams will slip up if Leicester are that solid. Leicester are... I know they've not been playing very well, but I see Leicester as a potential banana skin side for the top sides that are really looking to do bits. So 1-0 doesn't look flattering, and it wasn't flattering, but it's a champion's performance, that win.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I think Leicester played really well actually when they obviously held them off for a good half, right? So I think I do actually think the scoreline is actually flattering to Man City, to be fair, because Leicester did play really well. I think De Bruyne, I mean, it just showed the class that he has. If you have someone like him in your team, like obviously Harden wasn't playing, but you have someone like him in your team that can change in an instant. And I think his class always shines through. Because I do think people that know football always will give De Bruyne props, but, doesn't always score. Obviously, he creates chances, but I think that goal on Saturday was like world class and kind of just showed
unstoppable, isn't it? Unstoppable.
What a play he is, and like if you have him on your side, anything can happen. So I think it was a good win for Pep's side. I think Man City have shown that they've got that resilience and they can have those moments and take that chance. So yeah, and I think obviously Leicester have saved Brendan Rodgers' job for another weekend. I feel like he's going to hang on to the end of the season now. Weirdly,
I think he's got enough respect because of. He's a good manager at that level. I think a couple of weeks ago, but he might have been a little bit in the firing line. But I just think, to be honest with you, the squad that they've got, they're going to have enough to get themselves out of trouble. And I think within the next, you've obviously got the break for the World Cup soon, but sort of after that, I'll see Leicester turning the corner, if I'm honest. I think they'll comfortably be mid-table.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, I completely agree with you too. I think the thing is with Rodgers, we said very early on that he should have been sacked. I remember 2 months ago when we had this discussion about Rodgers, and we did say that he was getting sacked. But to be completely honest, I don't think Leicester can afford to sack him. I think even now, with those sorts of performances against not the winners of the Premier League, but should be winners of the Premier League, one of the best squads, one of the strongest squads in the world, really, if you look at it. And I think for Brendan Rodgers to come away with a 1-0 loss, I think is actually pretty good.
I think it's decent, yeah.
De Bruyne's free kick out of this world. I don't think you could have picked any keeper from any.
You can't legislate for someone scoring that, can you? You can set up and like Leicester did and keep the best team out for 90 minutes, other than an absolute worldie, and the keeper Ederson as well pulls off a worldie. So
I'm not sure on the Ederson save.
I thought it was outstanding. I'll tell you why I thought it was so good, because I used to play in goal myself, and the ability to be able to react so soon because it went through a complete crowd of players. So it's not, if the shot was plain sight, I'd possibly argue that it wasn't a worldie, but the reason I think it's a worldie is not only is there players everywhere and he sees it late, but a goalkeeper's ability to be in the right position to be able to react last minute is is good, and I think it's an excellent start. But I get what you're saying there, Bill.
I just think it was too.
Maybe not.
It was too straight down the middle.
At the middle, yeah, fair.
To be classed as like, was it a good save? Yes, but a top save. If it was to the left or right of him, I would have classed that as one of the best saves. Like a very good save.
It was the pace. It was the pace as well, though. Let's not forget that was coming at him fast. Like
and it sort of bent back in. Central.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
I think central.
I just think it was too. I think it was too down the middle for me to class it as a top save.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but other than that, what you've said with the crowd of players, the reaction to it, obviously all unbelievable to be able to get to that. But if it's down the middle, it's still I think with Man City as well, do you think that Guardiola is going to be able to break this curse and win the Champions League with them?
Yes.
Haaland might be the difference, actually. I definitely think that with Haaland, and obviously he's experienced in the Champions League as well. Let's not forget that. I think that for me, I think was the slight worry of Man City, that they used to crumble at that final hurdle, because I just think because of the lack of experience.
And they didn't have a direct route either, did they? They had the playing style. Haaland offers a bit more. If you need a goal, let's just say City are down, when actually last year it was the reverse. They were sort of in front and then got pegged back. But if they are in a position where they're behind, or if they need to go for a goal, I just think Haaland gives you a more direct, right, let's punt the ball up. He's going to hold it up. And City have never really had that. They've just had an option of playing football, which, as good as that is, sometimes you need that vocal point, don't you?
Yeah.
I think they'll win it in the next. I said last year they'll win it in the next 3 years. So this leaves 2. I think they're the best team in the world at the moment. I know that's quite a big statement, but I honestly think
squad-wise, they are definitely up there, right? In terms of that squad is ridiculous. Like their second team is most people's first team, or what they want their first team to be. So you'd like to think with Haaland and the money spent on him, like they will win the Champions League. They have to. They've fallen at that hurdle way too many times.
Yeah, I think if you look at the caliber they're losing to, the Chelsea final, that was all, in my opinion, we got very lucky that Guardiola set up the way he did, because I feel that we could have been beat. Even as a Chelsea fan, coming up against the City squad, it's tough. And the way Guardiola set up that squad was not good. The way he set that up against Chelsea, we were very lucky, and we got an easy game, in my opinion. I felt that the way they set up wasn't that good. If you look at the sort of players that the team that they've had in the Champions League, they've lost to Marseille, Nice. I'm not sure if it was Nice, but other French clubs as well. I just think that I don't think Man City can do it, and I don't think Guardiola can either. Moving on to the next point now, we have got Tottenham 3, Bournemouth 2. Tottenham with a lucky win, I think.
They've had a few lucky wins. They're just so annoying. Like literally,
that's what Conte gives you.
It's so frustrating. It is so frustrating because, like, I literally was just like, this is in the bag. But I always knew that they would potentially come back, and like to win it in like so close to the end. They're just annoying. They're annoying because they'll be that team that creeps up into like the top 4, and they'll just be there hanging around, wasting space. But not that I'm just hating on them, but they are just annoying. They just keep getting those wins. There's luck, and as you said, Joe, they're lucky wins. They're not playing well.
It's their negative football almost allows them to have quite a lot in the tank at the end of games. And as you know, I quite like Spurs. I'm just one of the clubs that I've always liked down the years. But and I know Conte is a serial winner, but with Tottenham, you probably couldn't win a trophy if you had a bye to every final. So for me, if I was a Tottenham fan, I'd be wanting to see better football. And actually, I'll be honest with you, some games teams come back and you think, that can happen. With Bournemouth, I said at the beginning of the season, I'll still make the statement, I think they'll be relegated. they do not know how to control a game as a couple of times this year. And actually, I don't even think Tottenham were necessarily lucky. I think Bournemouth just capitulated. And I think they're the worst team in the league. I know that's quite a big statement, and I'm sorry for any Bournemouth fans that are tuned in. But for me, I think they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
So you reckon they'll be rock bottom by the end of the season?
I don't necessarily think they'll be rock bottom because just because you're the worst team in the Premier League don't necessarily mean that you're going to pick up the least points, if that sort of makes sense. I know that sounds a bit backwards.
Well, Leicester won the league and they didn't have the best squad in the league.
Exactly. Very similar. No, I think they'll be bottom three. I think they'll come second from bottom. I just think they will have a lot of other games similar to this, where they go a goal up or a couple of goals up and are not just pegged back, but beaten.
Yeah.
And it's just because I just don't see enough quality in that side, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
No.
I think with the Tottenham game, with Tottenham in general, I think they're boring. The way they play, they just is so boring. And even Spurs fans admit that it's boring football the way they play.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that don't like it.
No, and I think, again, just another sort of lucky result. They shouldn't have won against us. I've moved on from that, but they shouldn't have won against you. Should they have won this Bournemouth game? Not really. But you have to give credit where credit's due. They were 2-0 down and they've grinded it and they've managed to get it to 3-2. So
and under Conte, I think they'll do this again a couple of times this season. They grind results out. And, I mean, if he can grind the trophy out, then he'll be everyone's best. No, but if he can, even if it's League Cup, everyone, Tottenham fans will go, oh, yeah, no, I don't care about the boring football. But I can't see Tottenham winning anything.
I can't either.
Not with this current team.
No.
I don't know. Do you reckon they'll be top four? I don't know. They are.
The only thing I'd say about top four, and I know you don't want to hear this as an Arsenal fan, but I think Conte gives you that type of dull point-making teams.
Yeah.
So even when they're absolute rubbish, they'll still pick up 1-0 wins or come back like they did at this weekend. And
so they'll creep in there.
His style of football, he just gives the team just enough to get whatever they need.
Yeah.
Is this Conte's second season? Third.
No,
maybe it's second, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely second.
So he's already
he come in last season and managed to get them top four. So, I mean, and that's when he had little time. I mean, I know their squad's not as big as Chelsea's and a couple of the others, but I just think he can get enough out of the players to to answer the question. I think they'll be top four. Do I want them to be top four? No, I don't. If they continue playing like this, I don't want to see them top four.
Yeah.
You're not representing my England playing like that.
And I think that's one thing. Like I've always said from the start, I think the top four, it's changed a little bit with Liverpool now, but I think the top four is going to go City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and I think United. I don't think Liverpool are going to get top four, and I don't see Tottenham getting top four.
I think Conte's Spurs are the same as his hairdo, just enough to cover over.
I do think the last spot is between United and Spurs, though, to be fair. United aren't looking that solid, to be fair. They're quite similar.
Spurs will definitely be top four. That's my prediction.
Now, moving on to a difficult subject.
Sorry.
I think a great subject. There's so much to discuss in this game, isn't there?
I am a Chelsea fan and I am proud of it, okay? I love this club no matter what the result is, right? Let's get that out of the way first.
But did you cry?
Did you love them on Saturday?
Did you come home like, what is it called? The in-betweeners. When he comes in, what's the dinner, Mum? Had a good day. And just go upstairs and cry.
Look, it was an awful day at the office for everyone at Chelsea. I think that Potter got it wrong, and I don't know if that's to do with Brighton, but I feel that potentially going back to the Albion to face them, I don't know what he was thinking with Sterling and Pulisic at wing back. Cucurella at centre back in a back three, I can understand.
Yeah.
But what I like to see from Potter a positive that I want to look at and take away from the game is that he is experimenting. He is seeing if he can play these wingers at wing back. He is seeing this stuff. All I know is Brighton have a tendency to attack down the wings, so he decides to put attacking wingers at wing back. We had
used to defending,
we had Aspie and we had Chilwell, and in my opinion, we should have started them. If we had them, I believe we could have won, because the defensive capabilities of Azpilicueta and Chilwell, I think, would have been able to defend and potentially outclass their wingers or the way they're playing out wide. And I think that we would have been able to play a lot more in the middle. Loftus-Cheek in the midfield as well.
He was off the other week as well. I told you he didn't have a very good game at all the other week. And I like Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah.
But do you know what? With these type of games, I know it's quite a heavy defeat for Chelsea. Probably could end up being the heaviest defeat this year, to be honest. And it's not just Chelsea. Brighton done the same to United. And they've done the same to similar teams. But sometimes when you go back to your old club or when old players, there is nothing worse than, I'm down Fratton Park and they say, start an 11 and it'll be an ex-Pompey player. And I just know he's going to score, or an ex-manager. Sometimes it doesn't help, because not only are Brighton a good side, they was probably revved up a bit. And by the sounds of the fans, I think they probably wanted to get one over Potter, and they feel a little bit hard done by. And sometimes you can be the better footballing side. It's the same at every level. It's the same at grassroots. But if you galvanise by your manager or circumstances, it gives you that little extra gear that you can get yourself into. And I think, the opposite would have happened with Chelsea. Potter really wouldn't have wanted a defeat, let alone a heavy defeat. And actually, did that influence his sort of a bit odd setup and players that he started? Did that influence him? Because it certainly was as you say, Bill, a slightly strange setup and formation, really.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about him getting booed?
I think that's out of order. I think he's done absolutely fantastic.
I thought that was incredibly harsh. Like, I think you have to understand, right? Like, he technically got promotion, right? He did well at Brighton. Yeah. If Chelsea come knocking, you're not going to say no. Like, I think this happened before.
He consolidated them as a Premier League team. He's not left them fighting. If anything, they're mid-table fighting to go higher, and he's left them comfortable. If I'm honest, I think the boos just represent society today and the lack of appreciation for anyone or anything sometimes. I know that sounds, it's you've got to appreciate what he's done for the club, and I think the boos, they can only be sort of sour grapes, really, because it can't be based on his personality. Because I think he's done everything right. He's been quite outspoken about the move, and that it's a good chance for him. And look, he deserved it as well. If he was a foreign manager, would he have got so much stick? And the reason I say that is because it's the same reason people going, I don't know if Potter's big enough for this job, because he's sort of a nice guy. He doesn't shout and scream. He's quite all together. He's looks like an English teacher. People just don't seem to have the same enthusiasm about him. But actually, I think he's a nice guy. I think he's done everything the right way. And if I was a Brighton fan, which I'm certainly not, I would definitely not have been booing him.
Yeah, so I think go on, Bill. God. Go on, you go. Here's your team, and they did lose, so I'm happy for you to talk.
I was just going to quickly say that I have got mates who are Brighton fans, and they hate Cucurella more than they hate Potter. Potter, they understand he got a plus 8 million in his bank, like a positive of 8 million on top of what he was already earning, which I think was 1 or 2 million already a year. He gets Champions League football, and he's battling for top 4. Anyone with a brain cell would take that job.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to afford his heating bill with that wage.
and like you said, Joe, about him battling with Brighton at the bottom, and he solidified them as a Premier League team now. I remember when Brighton first got promoted, they
were scrapping every week, couldn't they?
They were constantly battling and grinding and just trying to. Potter comes in, steadies the ship, shows them how to run it, and it just right there, it proved that Brighton are a team not to be messed with, and it's definitely not underestimated. They are still a squad.
Quick question from Ryan here, Bill.
Just a bad week, suffering from injuries. Also, key players not performing and Brighton playing well. I said before the show about our injuries. Our starting back five, we have 3 of them out injured. We have Koulibaly, we have Fofana, and we have Reece James. All back in the middle of November. Reece James out to the World Cup end. It's a massive hit for us. Reece James has been one of our best players this season by a country mile. What he's been putting in with goals, assists, defending, attacking, he has been all over the shop and he's been incredible. And to lose such an important player like him definitely showed today. Not today, but against Brighton the other day. And not performing. Key players not performing, I would agree, but also I would say they probably weren't performing because they weren't in the right positions. You know, you can't expect Raheem Sterling to be playing right wing back and expect him to be playing what he's normally like at Cam or on that wide sort of midfielder role that he plays for Potter. So I could understand, key players not performing. But Brighton, again, like I was just about to say, Brighton playing very well. But yeah, my thoughts on Sterling as him as a player or as a wing back?
As a Chelsea player, I guess.
I think Chelsea player. Like, what's he brought to the table?
What he's offered so far with his goals and going forward, his pace. We saw it all at City. We knew what we were buying. The way we play him is slightly differently. We play him slightly more central. We play sort of a 5-2-2-1, if you will, with the 2 attacking midfielders being slightly more wide. So he is getting the free roaming capabilities to be able to come central or go out wide. And I'm enjoying Sterling, to be honest. He hit the ground running for us, I think. He scored a couple goals here and there at the start.
He slowed a bit, but I think there'll be more to come from him.
100%. I think games like this, you just have to take on the chin and carry on. But the problem I have now is because Potter's lost, I'm not sure how the fans are going to react. I know with Lampard,
wasn't it trending a bit like Potter out?
That's just ridiculous. That's just daft.
Yeah, but I guess it just goes to show the mentality of football fans these days. Like no one has any patience.
Annoy me sometimes. They really do annoy me sometimes. Like
I think
you've got to have a bit of grace and decorum about you sometimes. It's just, it's. Fans are like always argue about the board and the managers and give this time, give that time. But fans are also so fickle. They're the first person to call someone out because you don't play well one week. And I'm a football fan and I've probably done the same thing. But sometimes it's too much.
I think it's an Abramovich issue for me. And I know he left a while ago, but I said this on our chat. A lot of our fans seem to have developed the same mindset as you lose 3-4 games, we want you gone, we want you out. And I think it's disgusting. If you look at the likes of Arteta, he had one of the worst, I think he lost 8 games in a row at the start of the season, one of the worst in Arsenal's history. A lot of Arsenal fans wanted him out. The owner stuck with him, and look at him now. He's top of the table. And I think with Abramovich, I don't think Arteta would have lasted the week. I think with Abramovich and the way he was, and I think the fans have developed the same mindset in the fact that if we lose 3 or 4 games, we want you out and we want you gone. I'm not about that personally. I want to see a manager, like Potter, coming in
with a project and a plan and
exactly an identity that we have been craving. We have had this awful, boring, sit back, defend. Do you know what I mean? Park the bus sort of joke that we've been on about, and it's getting boring now. And what Potter's offered now is something that I'm looking forward to seeing. With Lampard as well, he was very quick to, because he was a Chelsea legend. A lot of fans didn't want him out as early. But if he wasn't, he definitely would have been out. Now, moving on to the next game, we've got Newcastle 4, Aston Villa 0. I really thought Unai Emery coming into Aston Villa would be really good. And a lot of people laugh, but the tactics he set out with the 4-4-2 that he did with Villarreal, he has the players at Aston Villa. If you look at the likes of Leon Bailey on the right I can't remember Villarreal's right midfielder, but he's very much the same. And I think that the tactics and the style that Villa have been, or the style that, Villarreal have been playing could transcend and go into Aston Villa with Unai Emery. But I think Newcastle I think they're a top 6 side for definite, for me.
I think this is the worst fixture Mr. Emery could have had as his first fixture in the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll tell you for why. I think Newcastle actually, the goals they've conceded this year back this statement up. I think Newcastle are the most organised team currently in the Premier League because they don't let in a lot of goals. They've got a very solid back four and goalkeeper. They've got a midfield that's probably improving. Even Joel Linton in his midfield days now is quite a workhorse, and he surprised me actually. He's not Guimaraes, or however you pronounce his name, is class. Almiron's hit the form of his life, and Wilson. I've always said Wilson would have been a top 4 striker had he not had glass legs. So he's always going to get you them goals. So it's not a good fixture. When you're coming in to manage a team for the first time and you're trying to organise them and put your stamp on a team, you don't want to be coming up against organisation at 100%. And I think it would have been better for him to be away to City for his first game and get a bit of a hammer in or see what his team's about. Yeah, they were shown. I think it may do Unai Emery a favour because you'll see where his inconsistencies are. But, as I said earlier, and you all laughed at me, but you're not laughing now. I love that quote. If Newcastle can make it to Christmas and stay in amongst, I think they'll spend money in January. I think you're going to see something.
I think they'll spend money at the end of the season, not Jan. I think they'd wait to see where they land.
If they're fourth in January, you don't think they'll get the bucks out? I think they'll get money out.
I don't know if they'll spend as. They're the richest club, aren't they? But I don't think they'll spend as big as we. I think they'll see where they land and then reinforce at the end of the season.
It depends how fair play hurts them, because without any European football, they can't just spend. Obviously, the fair play is there, but we've seen many teams find a way around it.
Yeah, true.
However they refinance the club. So I think if they can get around the fair play, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle made some shock big signings in January.
But you say big signings, but that's the thing. Players will go where they can play European football, right? It's not a guarantee at the moment with Newcastle. They're looking good. They could be top 6.
Well,
but they
money's fine.
Money's league,
fine.
so.
They'll probably get Europa if they're in a good position in January.
Yeah.
But they've got a project. So to get a player who's 22, 23, who maybe don't mind doing a project, yes, it would be more difficult. And yes, you'll have to pay a little bit more in wages potentially. But I think money talks. Yeah. Money talks. And if they offer 100 million for, I don't know, who's the chap? Gakpo?
Gakpo. PSG.
So he's got a release clause, for instance, of 35 million. If Newcastle come in and go, look, we know he's got that release clause. We're going to offer you 60 million and just get them in a position. So, look, I want them to be fourth just to see whether they spend money or not. Shall could be right. They might wait, but I think they'll put their hands in their very, very deep pockets.
Yeah, I agree. I think Newcastle are a very exciting sort of team to watch at the minute. I think
they might be the new Man City. That's the scary thing.
Because that's how Man City started off.
This is why we all know that. We know how it ended with Man City, right? So
what Man City done is they didn't just buy all the best players. They sort of got their middle good players, which if you have a look at Newcastle, Botman, Trippier, it's all sort of players that are definitely improved them, but they're not like and then you consolidate being a top 8 team, and then you go again, and you get that, So yeah, it is following a similar path. And
Ryan
must be fair play.
Yeah, Ryan commented saying they are thinking about the bigger picture. I presume he's talking about the Newcastle owners. They are thinking And I think Eddie Howe, we had this discussion last week. I think Eddie Howe has completely changed how they thought about him at first. I think they brought him in to steady the ship, and me and Joe agreed on this as well. But now looking at how he's playing with the Newcastle side that he wanted, you can see exactly exactly how they're playing, exactly the results they're getting. 4-0 win.
I've always been a big fan of Howe, and I just think I knew he was capable of this, and I honestly think he's capable of more. But
definitely.
It's a very difficult job, isn't it? Being I wouldn't necessarily like to be Newcastle's manager at the moment, because to take a team from there, even when you've got the money to spend, it's still not easy. You still got to get the right people in that are going to improve you with the money you're given. And I don't think it's the easiest market to get value for money.
No.
Well, ask Nottingham Forest, 44.5 million on Gibbs White. It's not an easy market.
Yeah.
Sorry, Forest fans.
Now, moving on to the next game, we have got Leeds 2, Liverpool 1. Very happy about this result. As you lot know, I don't like Liverpool. So seeing this result, I'm ecstatic.
Made the 4-1 a bit easier to take, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liverpool. What is going on? Is it for? I mean, we've discussed it in terms of missing Mane, etc. But I think it's more than that. It's fatigue, isn't it?
It's more than that. It is more than that. I think it's a combination of things. Missing Mane, a lag from the last 2 years keeping up with a team that have a bigger squad than them, and I do think physically it's taken its toll. I think Elliott and certain players that are good players and potentially could make it, I don't think they're quite good enough yet to see games out and win them. And I've put it on our ticker at the bottom here. I put a couple of things on this one, actually. I even put my name on the end bit. But did Mane, because no one's discussed this, did Mane see, I know everyone said it's about to do with money. Liverpool was either keeping Salah and Mane. I've never agreed with that, and I don't think that was the case. I think they could have still offered Mane a package to stay that he would have been happy with. Did Mane see this potentially coming? I know that sounds like quite a strange thing. Did he have a look around in the dressing room and think he's going towards the end? Salah's got a bigger contract. I don't know, you know.
I guess it's because, to be fair, I can see why he left to some extent. Like, Liverpool have won. He's won everything he can. Well, I say everything he can with Liverpool. I guess he wanted to be, obviously, and seeing what him and Salah, I guess Salah was always going to be the main man, right? I don't know if money was such a big thing. I think I talked to Bruce about it before, about, like, you know, how he wanted to, like, have money to kind of, you know, fund his projects outside of football. But yeah, I just think he wanted a different opportunity in a different league. I think, obviously, before he was at Liverpool, he was at Southampton, wasn't he? Yeah. So I guess, like, there he kind of, everyone saw the progression in terms of, like, starting from Southampton and going to Liverpool and winning all these accolades. I just think he just wanted the opportunity. And I think there's definitely something that has gone on between him and Salah. It has to be. I think there's been an underlining thing that's been bubbling, and that's probably what led him to make that decision. But I don't think anyone could foresee Liverpool being this shocking. Let's be honest. Like, this is bad.
What a demise. Yeah, you just couldn't.
It's so rapid.
It's so big. It's almost so big. It's not the players. It's almost everything conspiring against them. And I'm not a Liverpool fan, but it's players leaving, form not great, injuries. Key players who, you know, if you said to someone that Van Dijk would be playing like he is this year, they'd laugh at you. Go, he isn't even capable of being that bad. So I think it's an accumulation of several factors, and they're suffering. I still think they get fourth.
Now we've got Ryan and Napper's mum talking here. Ryan's team is MK Dons, but he also supports Chelsea as well.
Big up the Dons. They're having a rough season, Ryan. Well, the last couple of years, MK Dons in League One, they've been the sort of city in terms of / Brighton. They've created a style of play, possession-based football, which was moving them up the league. They've sort of hit a roadblock. They lost a couple of players, brought a couple in, and it's not worked for them at all. So I know this is a Premier League show, but Yeah, I don't know where it's gone wrong for you guys, Ryan, but yeah.
Ryan also says, unpopular opinion, but Salah isn't all that. Basically saying he's a one-season wonder.
I started liking Ryan, but Ryan,
Nah, I see his point that he has hit two or three seasons where he's been unbelievable. But other than that,
unreal for the last 3 or 4 years.
But then remember, he hasn't all those seasons, even when he was amazing, he had blips as well. So like, as much as like we rate Salah, he'd always start slow. To be fair, that's why this season I was a bit like, he always starts slow, he'll get back into form. But I mean, we're quite a few games in, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. But I think he always has that blip. But normally when he has that blip, a Mane will come into form, or Firmino, or whoever it might be. But I think just this time round, he's had that dip, and everyone else has kind of, even Van Dijk has had a dip, which whoever thought that was happening?
Yeah, I didn't think that would happen.
That's been a shocker as well. And Joe Gomez, like, he's had some great games, and then he had a shocker
He's too inconsistent. The thing is, Van Dijk will pick up his form again. I think Gomez will always have that in his locker, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Fair. And Napa's mum has put, she's a Fleetwood Town and Spurs. So there's a bit of a mix, Fleetwood.
That's a bit of a shocker, isn't it?
I don't know about the Spurs.
You know what? Up the Fleetwood, they're like my second team now. They're in League One, so they're with Pompey, and I hope we beat them. But I like them.
Yeah, I like Fleetwood Town, but Spurs not so much.
It's where Vardy came from, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan's saying that his birthplace was MK Dons. Not all that bothered, just in my heart of hearts. He did say Chelsea mainly, so he knows where his head's at, and he's supporting a good club.
I'm surprised he mentioned it tonight, though, to be fair. I'd have left that till next week when... actually, no, you're playing us next week, so maybe not, actually.
Cannot wait. Quiet. I am so looking forward to that.
Oh, Christ.
You say you're looking forward to it, I don't know.
Way, I'm going to have to be a boxing ref in Ireland.
Now...
I'm not being funny, Bill. My money's on Shell.
Just saying.
About the mighty Gunners themselves.
What a lovely segue into the scoreline. Let's just take a moment, guys.
Face just light up. Oh, this game wasn't a bad game, was it?
I didn't know we were going to talk about it. Could we just take a moment to look at the scoreline? How beautiful that was, And
I think you guys are the first people to really send Forest back to the Championship this year, aren't you? No one's really hammered them like this, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing game to watch. Actually, I'm not going to lie. It was like Arsenal. Someone was like something was like Arsenal and like Invincibles. But I was like, that's maybe a bit Invincibles. That's a bit too far. But I think it was just good to see exciting, good football. Like Martinelli, that header was amazing. I wish I could see more of that from Martinelli going forward.
You know what though, Shell? This week, right? Because I love my football, I do my fantasy football.
Yeah.
Who do I have as captain? Haaland's out, so who am I going to have? I thought, who's going to get goals and assists? I'll have Martinelli.
Oh, did you?
He scores in 5 minutes. I'm thinking, mate, what's the decision? And he doesn't get another assist or goal, and they score. No. I couldn't believe it. But he played well. But Martinelli, I think, is a prime example of someone who can show ability, but it takes that manager or that person to sort of be able to turn that ability into a player. Because Martinelli, I've seen that ability since day one, since match one playing for Arsenal. I'm like, he has something, but they don't always turn it into, and it's really refreshing to see the way that he's playing, actually. And I'm so glad, because for a time he seemed to stay at a level, didn't he, Shell?
Yeah, it's like really stagnate.
But now he's consistently playing well, and that's what I like to see for any young player, to be honest, just consistently improving.
Yeah, and I think he's getting those starts, isn't it? So I think his mentality shifted a little bit. So obviously he was coming on as a sub quite a lot, and actually expected to make. I mean, he made some exciting runs, but I think the pressure of him making that impact was what like led him to be quite stagnant. But I think now he's in the starting 11. I think we've seen a difference in him. But it was just so good to watch. I'm not going to lie. Obviously, I think Ryan's mentioned it before. Like, obviously, Forest beat Liverpool, so that game could have gone many ways. many ways. But also, I think Arsenal I think they just came flying out the blocks.
There was one shaky moment, Shell.
There's always a shaky moment with Arsenal. Let's
I think he was Mr. Shaky himself. I'm going to start calling him Shaky Stevens, but was it Gabriel that just passed the ball?
Yeah, it was Gabriel. At first, I thought it was Saliba actually, because we know.
That's awful. First of all, just because of positioning, I thought that was Saliba.
Yeah, I thought it was Saliba. It was actually Gabriel. Yeah.
But then I realised, I watched the mistake again, and I realised, no, that's got to be Gabriel playing the ball like that. He does do it every now and then, doesn't he? Gabriel, more than Saliba, he's sort of got that attention can go off, whether it be his disciplinary side, footballing side, he does still seem to have that moment. And
it normally happens when Arsenal have quite a good spell of play, which I don't understand with him, because it happened in the City game a couple of seasons ago when he obviously got sent off. But he has those moments when we actually have a good spell of play, but then normally when that happens, it just leads to more and more mistakes, which I think we saw during like the Leeds game. But it was brilliant. And obviously, let's talk about
he's got a better side behind him as well now, isn't he? Like as a whole 11.
Yeah,
so it's true. Probably easier to, when you're not playing well and you're not getting the results, it's sort of every mistake stands out. But actually, Arsenal at the moment are flying.
Yeah, definitely.
You're always going to make the odd little mistake. It's just a bit easier to get away with in a team like Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, there's like peaks and troughs. Oh, thanks. Oh, I could talk all day.
How much have you sent to Jill for that comment, Shell?
I'm going to slip her 50 later. But no, I think obviously the worry is Saka went off injured, which. Obviously, we saw a blessing with Reece Nelson coming on, and he had a blinder. But Saka's a little bit of a worry. I'm praying.
They're saying it's just a next week. Really bad knock. The scans don't, by what I've read, I don't know this factually. They're saying it's just a bad knock and bruising. It's not anything serious, but I'm hoping that's the case, because I think he'll be England's most important player, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I agree. And we need him for next week against Chelsea. I reckon he'll score probably 2 goals.
And he's my main man. He's my favourite.
You do love him, Joe.
He is my favourite player in the Premier League over the last 2 years. And it's not just because of... I like people with a character and guts. And I think to miss the penalty for England and then continuous progression, respect to the lad. And I find him the most enjoyable player to watch every week.
Yeah,
I watch. You know what I'm like. My wife's told me I've sat there and watched 6 games back to back on the weekend before, and I just get enjoyment out of people that seem to enjoy football.
Yeah,
he's certainly one of them. It's a pleasure to watch.
So, I love this stream, guys, as well. Nice. Thank you very much. Happy you're enjoying it.
Thank you, Jill.
And Ryan saying Gabriel is a fantastic defender, in fairness. I think the key difference between Saliba and Gabriel, in my opinion, is that odd mistake. Saliba has a lot less mistakes in his locker than I see Gabriel doing.
But the only thing with Gabriel is he's the one player, if I'm honest, in Arsenal's current starting 11 that I think would really suit old Arsenal teams with the sort of hard, he's like the Martin Keown, and he's just absolutely ruthless. And I think he would be one of the first names on the team sheets for previous Arsenal sides. Well, you're an Arsenal fan, Shell, so hopefully you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's his character, right? In terms of
And it's sometimes you don't want to take that bite which may get him in trouble away, because sometimes it can lessen the player. So I think Arteta's got to do a very difficult job as a manager, and I call it balance aggression with professionalism.
Yeah, definitely.
And very difficult challenge. Certainly, if you told him to chill out and not be a lunatic, he probably wouldn't be as good a centre half. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, it's true. It's very true. Obviously, Jesus didn't score, but I think he did enough off. He did so much in that game. I think that's the thing with him. I think regardless of whether he scores or not, the assists, the movement, the confusion.
I'm glad you appreciate that.
No, I do, because I think it's one of the. Because I've heard a few people going, "Oh, he hasn't scored," and I was a bit like,
"So many digs at him lately, saying, oh, he isn't scoring enough." Look, he's got 6 assists and I think 5 goals, 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah.
11. So he's got 11 goal contributions in 12 games. I think it's 12 games.
Yeah.
The thing is, he is so selfless. If he's in my side, as long as he's creating chances, I really don't care if he assists or scores. And I think there's been, you must have seen what I've seen, Shell. I don't know if you've seen it, Bill. I've seen a lot of people calling him out this week for not scoring.
Yeah,
I saw he did well holding players off. I thought defense he did for someone his size. I really didn't think it'd be the hold up striker.
A couple of the goals, I actually thought he could have had a dig himself, but the other player was better positioned.
Yeah,
so he focused on getting the ball for
like
in a more dangerous area. Yeah, I think he could have probably shot himself. But no, I think a player that's playing well, like Jesus, all the time he's getting in them positions where he's causing opponents absolute havoc, he will score goals. He just won't be as prolific as others who are, say, the only vocal point. I think it's really shows where Arsenal have come when people are mugging Jesus off.
Yeah, I know.
11 goal contributions. If I was an Arsenal fan now, I'd just be saying, carry on mugging us off.
Yeah.
If 5-0 and my striker don't score, I am sleeping very well this evening.
Right, guys, Tabrice has come in with a great question. Who's the best defensive midfielder in the league right now and why?
I've got mine straight away.
Go on, go for it, Joe. I think you might say someone who I might say as well.
So now, sorry, I just want to check. Is the question based on form now, or who do I think is the best now? I'll just answer who I think. So I think the best defensive midfielder at the moment is Declan Rice in the Premier League. I think positionally, he's very good. He tackles a lot. Probably lacks a bit of pace. He does the simple stuff well. If we're talking about form, then Partey would be up there because he's playing extremely well. And if we're talking just to flip it, what don't I like to see in a defensive midfielder? Go and speak to my friend down the road, the luckiest man to ever play for a top four side, Scott McTominay.
I was going to say Rodri for me as a DM. Rice, I would say, but since Souček's came in to solidify that defensive midfield role, I feel Rice has been used more as like a number 8.
Actually, I think you're right, Bill. Rodri maybe.
I think Declan Rice has been used more as a box-to-box number 8 since Souček has come in to replace him. Not necessarily replace him, but fill in that solid CDM sort of number 6 role.
The only thing I would say with Rodri is the team he's got around him, he doesn't have to do much defensive midfield work, does he?
True.
Let's be honest.
When you said Thomas Partey as well, he scored an identical goal.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Against Tottenham, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you know what, guys? Let's just take a moment for Thomas Partey because
I'm not clapping for not a single
even for the goal, it was amazing. I would say Partey right now.
You know what?
Go on.
No, I'm just saying. People are coming in with comments. I'd go Rodri as well. I'm just biased.
Would you say Rodri current? I don't know.
To Breeze, Rodri.
I just think currently he hasn't really had much to do. But,
I just
go on, Michelle. Who's yours?
Mine is Partey currently for obvious reasons. You know,
his form is good.
But I mean, obviously, it's so sad that Kante is injured because I do wonder like what he would be doing for Chelsea currently. I think
he's over the hill. I said it a while back.
Do you?
When I say over the hill, I don't mean he's no longer.
But he's been fantastic. Even if he's over the hill, still do a lot.
He'll still do a good job. But for him, for his level that he reached, I think he's over the hill. I think he's unfortunately on the other side of Everest, coming down. And I love the little man.
And that's a big old mountain, you know.
Quick question.
Big old mountain. He's going to need a lot of rope.
Can the Chelsea fan speak on the Chelsea player about Kante?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. You can. Proceed. I
think I agree with Joe. I think he's over it now. Yeah, has he got the legs? Absolutely not. Do I think he's still going to be used in importantly, what I would do personally as the manager, what I've done on my Football Manager save, is I've sold Kante and I've bought Rice. I think Rice would fill in so well into that Kante role. The legs,
Rice, baby.
and I would love Rice back at Chelsea where he belongs. He was an academy player. Yes, we let him go, but he's best mates with Mount, and he would love.
He was also Irish and now English, so the guy's.
I reckon he'll be back with you next season. He always came back this season, didn't he?
Yeah, but with Kante being out injury prone now, I think for me,
he's done. Oh,
I think he's just. I love the guy. He plays with a smile on his face week in, week out. The stuff he's done for Chelsea. He's one of the only players, apart from Cantona, to win back-to-back Premier League titles with two different clubs.
Yeah, different clubs.
That speaks volume itself. But I think Kante just isn't it anymore, and I think the hype needs to be moved on. And
Sorry, that's my Cantona impression. I love Cantona as well. I've never seen anything like it in the Premier League.
Mum, continue from the amateur or to Breeze's question. The best Premiership manager right now. I think that's a given. I would say Arteta. Mental. I would say Potter if he won against Brighton.
Oh, really?
But because I think maybe
you can't make a decision like that based on one game. If you were going to say Potter, I would still say Potter.
I think I think with Potter, it's shown his levels at how he's not fully there yet. We've spoken about Chelsea enough, in my opinion, as a Chelsea fan. But I think with Potter, what he's done for Brighton, brilliant, amazing. What he's done in the Swedish league, incredible. What he's doing for Chelsea, he's unbeaten so far. Obviously, a 4-1. I just can't see how we go from a 3-0 win or a 2-0 win away to AC Milan in the Champions League to losing 4-1.
That's football. That's why we love it.
That's But the best Premiership manager right now for me is Arteta. The way he's got the young lads playing, they're all pretty young. They're playing phenomenally well at the age they all are, to show their level of professionalism and their understanding of the game at a young age. They have got some experienced players in there like Partey. But Arteta seems... You got Ben White playing at right back. You got Tommy Asu, who is a right back or a centre back. He's playing left back. The way Arteta's been, for me, Arteta is the best.
How about you, Shell?
I have to agree. I think being an Arsenal fan and the journey we've been on with Arteta, I didn't actually see this season coming. I think not many people did actually. We saw the players he bought. Everyone's a bit like, that's that. I mean, Jesus, like Shevchenko, everyone's a bit like, okay, fine.
They're like, Ramsdale got the biggest eyebrows.
Say again?
I think Ramsdale got the biggest eyebrows at the time.
The time when he was bought, definitely.
It's like 50 million for Ramsdale. People were laughing.
I don't know. I feel Ben White got the worst one because everyone's a bit like, really, who is he? But I do think what Arteta's done in terms of that discipline and actually getting like the team spirit is something I've heard. Every time they score a goal, the way they huddle together and like regroup, like that's something I've not seen in a long time, and I think he's done a brilliant job in building. Even he's obviously got a local singer to have a song. He wants to create that whole Anfield Never Walk Alone. I mean, it will never be that, but at least he's trying. So I think he's done so much stuff, even at like off the pitch, to try and build the club up, which I think you can't get. He's getting the rewards now, but you have to give him props for the effort he puts in. He loves the game. Like, that man is obsessed with football.
It's helped that he was a previous player as well and was sort of there through a difficult phase. It's been you think that's helped him as a manager sort of understand the club a little bit in them difficult times that he's had?
Yeah, and plus he's obviously been captain. He was captain of Everton, wasn't he, at one point as well? So he was captain of Everton, captain of Arsenal. So he's obviously always had that leadership mentality, which I think he's brought into the game. And like, he was a bit feisty, like, as well when he played for Arsenal. So I think he understands the players like to a depth that not all managers do. Because obviously he's been at the club, he's captained the club, he's played under one of the best managers in history. So I think that's all kind of contributed. And actually the fact that the owners have stuck with him on the journey, it gets to a point where you're just like, he's not going anywhere. Let's just get on board in it, because, there's probably a couple of players that were a bit unsure, but what he's got the results, so you can't really complain.
Joe, who's your best manager then?
For me, it's Pep. Although I've got a bit of a bias against him because, it is easier to manage these top clubs, but I just think he coaches players and improves them.
Yeah.
And on the opposite to that, I would have said Klopp. Previously, I've loved Klopp, but I don't want to go back to talking about Liverpool, but I've just had a brain wave. Is Klopp also the reason for the demise of Liverpool? Because I'm quite, I'm unbiased. I can like all managers and teams in the Premier League, but Klopp's really wound me up the last couple of weeks. I'm sick of the excuses, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know all managers make excuses. I've heard Pep, I've heard Arteta. Actually, I say Arteta doesn't make many, but they all go through their phases, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Klopp seems every week that something's up and it's all against him. And actually, that mentality can't be good for the players. That doesn't dig you out of a hole when you're not playing very well, does it?
No,
I know it's about the best manager, but I would say Pep.
No, I hear you, and I think, but then Klopp's always had that in him, though. That's not a new thing with Klopp. He's always had a moment.
No, it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing, but I've never seen it consistently from him.
Yeah,
I know he's a bit of a swim bag. Sir Alex, the best there ever was worse.
Yeah.
But I never see it all the time from Klopp. He used to have sometimes a little bit of fight, and sometimes he would be honest and sort of say, "No, it was us. We weren't good enough." I'm not seeing any of that from him lately.
Yeah, true.
It's almost like everything's against him, and that's where I think he's changed a bit. Shell, I've not seen Klopp consecutively be negative Nelly.
Yeah.
And he's winding me up.
I think with Klopp though as well, he has this sort of weakness that he doesn't rotate often. I think after they won the Champions League, they had that awful injury spell, and that is down to management. I know, you get unlucky, you lose a couple of players. Van Dijk with that injury.
You consistently I know what you're saying.
You're consistently belting these players out week in, week out, Champions League games, FA Cup games, all of this ridiculous stuff. Eventually, it's going to catch up to him, and we can see it now. We saw it again. We saw it when they had their injury crisis. We see it now with their midfield, with the injuries they're going through and stuff. But I think Klopp's one of the biggest reasons for their downfall with how he seems to be playing. But yeah, so me and Michelle have gone with Arteta as our best managers, and Joe has gone with Pep. Now, Brian, with another question. Best goal of the season. I know it's fresh in the mind, but De Bruyne's free.
No.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne's is the best I've seen this year. I do like a team goal, to be honest, but I can't think of too many.
It's very rare that you see.
Said Mount. Yeah, Mount scored quite a good.
Yeah, that was a good goal. No, De Bruyne was. Yeah, De Bruyne.
I don't see goals often where you genuinely no keeper in the world can save.
No. Yeah, it's hit the inside of the post.
That's unsavable.
Unsavable. Yeah.
No,
I know it's more difficult skill, but it's the same as a penalty. If you hit it well enough, it is unsavable.
Yeah.
And I think he could take that penalty against every keeper in the world. No one is saving it.
Yeah.
Because to physically save it at that pace, you'd need to be on the right side of the goal, which you just wouldn't do because then they're just going to.
So would we agree with De Bruyne's free kick being the best so far?
For me, so far, yeah.
This one may take a while, but to Breeze saying, will the Super League ever happen? I think for me, it's very simple. Ifs, buts, and maybes. I don't think realistically the fans will let it happen. I think there'll be too many riots, too many protests.
Fans don't matter like they used to. The only reason it stopped this time is because a few of the core clubs still hold a little bit of fan power.
Yeah.
Yes, it will happen, but the format will have to change. The way they were formatting it was almost on previous and financial power of clubs.
Yeah.
If they're going to do it, they have to do it, and they will do it. They have to do it fair so that it's similar to any other league table, and clubs that are in the below leagues can filter up and filter down. Now, the reason they don't want to do it like that is because the top clubs then won't see that as guaranteed money. Yeah. So they will have to play around with the qualifying procedure for it, because you can't, if they create it in its current format, for me the answer is no. I think fans will have enough power to stop it just being a big league. If they create it in a very clever format which does the same thing but offers more to the leagues, then it will happen, in my opinion.
So for me, I don't think it. Joe, you do think it. Michelle, what do you think?
I don't think it will. I say I don't think it will. Joe has got a point though. If they do figure out the format, maybe, but I don't see it happening in the next 10 years. If I'm being totally honest.
The way I look at it is, when I was younger, I know this is very different.
No, I know what you're going to say.
All the Premier League was there.
Yeah.
People said, "Would you rest your best team for an FA Cup tie?" No, you wouldn't do it. It was the biggest cup game. And since Europa League and Champions League and these cups are getting so much television rights and money, FA Cup is rubbish now. It's not the FA Cup I know. Not at all. I know that's English League, but that's money talking. And all these little clubs in the Premier League will be moaning. But if they were to redo a format and say, well, actually, 20% of the earnings from the Super League will drop down and add to your TV income, people will be signing up left, right, and centre.
Yeah. Napper's mum now commenting, saying, keep going every week with this stream. You're getting stronger each week, and the conversation is amazing. Napper's mum, thank you for tuning in.
I'm sending her another 50 for that, so that's £100.
Bobin has come in and said, oi, oi, a mate of mine. How you doing, Bob, mate? Hope you're well. Thank you for coming in.
He ain't a Chelsea fan, is he?
No, he's not. Don't worry about that.
He looks more sensible.
To Bree saying, has Klopp got the experience to get Liverpool through this difficult period? I think it's Klopp's time. It sounds crazy, but unfortunately...
No, I think he has. I'd like to sit in a room with Klopp at the moment, actually, and tell him how...
Have a beer with him.
No, I'm being honest. I love the man. I think he's brought so much to English football. I think his management with his team, when he is positive, is second to none.
Yeah.
I almost want to shake him a bit and tell him to wake up, because his attitude at the moment is rubbing off on the team the more I think about it. And yes, I think anyone with the attributes that Klopp has got can turn it around. I think Liverpool would be stupid to get rid of him, but I do think they need financial investment, and I think Klopp needs a good shake.
I don't think they'll get rid of him. I think he will leave on his own accord. I think
he's earned enough.
Now.
He's earned enough.
Yeah, I think at that stage now where he's gone back to those legacy managers where, you know, like Arsene Wenger, Fergie, you leave on your own account. I don't think they could ever fire him, but I do think that, like you say, like in terms of the formation of Liverpool, I think he's just probably run out a little bit of ideas. So maybe he needs to spend some more in Jan and then get a new lease of life. But I think if he keeps the current players that he's got, I'm not sure he can get them out of that difficult period.
I'd agree. He needs to make a few nice investments.
Yeah.
Now, moving on from all the questions, Man United 1, West Ham 0. This is the last game that we will be talking about tonight.
What, Bill? Man United are boring. Yes, we know. They're so boring.
I don't know what... And obviously, Varane went out injured, but surely Maguire's got to be fifth in the list. I'd have Phil Jones. I'd have Eric Bailly. Never mind. Jones. Eric Bailly's moved, I believe, actually. But
yeah, he went, yeah.
I just... Yeah, I don't know about how you lot feel, but I think...
I'll watch the game, and it's funny, because we all do it. We can't all watch every game. We can't. It's impossible. I would. If I was allowed, I would, right? But we can't, so we watch the highlights watches. I'll watch this game, and on any other day, a United side that didn't have as much fight a couple of months ago get beat.
Yeah, true.
And just because United won 1-0, any United fan that's watching, don't be thinking, oh, Maguire came on, clean shit. He was dreadful. Yeah. Maguire was dreadful. He got turned. Do you know when he comes up tight on the halfway line to the defender and makes a challenge and goes on the floor and is out of the game? He done it. Yeah. He done it definitely 2, maybe up to 4 times, where the ball broke. Toit to the defender, turned, he's out of the game on the floor, missed the challenge.
Yeah.
He must have awkwardly cut out balls that he should have been heading firmly down to a United player 12 times. Just randomly slicing it out. It was, I'm sorry, it sounds strange to say because United won 1-0. He was awful.
He was awful. But the reason why they kept a clean sheet was De Gea. Like, let's not forget. Like,
to be fair, Dalot played really well.
He played really well, and that was. Do you know what? The only highlights of this game was the fact that De Gea played really well, and Rashford looked all right. Actually, I was probably thinking more towards England. I was like, oh, Rashford looks all right. Actually, maybe he's throwing his hat in the ring. But you're right. Actually, like Maguire's not showing us much hope, but De Gea's the one who kept that clean sheet, and he played really well. And that's the only reason why.
I've got to say though, and I said it first game. You know, I love calling a player. I called that Leeds nipper earlier as well. He'll be a baller. Martinez, I said it after the first game when everyone was giving him stick because he got beat by someone who was 6'5" at the back post. Can happen to him. He is a baller. I think he's their best signing. I think he's a really, really good centre back. Yeah. And if I'm honest, I think he gets in most top 4 sides. I've been really impressed with Martinez since he's joined United. Without a doubt, for me, United's best signing.
Fair.
Yeah, I think with genuinely that game, the saves De Gea was pulling off. It was like watching prime De Gea. How he used to be.
His distribution weren't too bad yesterday either, to be honest. He didn't make any, known boo-boos.
But overall, they need to sort something out with Maguire. Whether they release him, whether they buy.
I think sell him for 15 mil and take a hit.
Yeah,
there's still clubs out there. Newcastle. Like, it may sound absolutely.
They're better than Maguire. They don't need him. They've got more money than that. They don't need him.
But for 15 mil cut price, I'm talking about doing that City thing where you would just.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't mind Maguire at Chelsea. Don't pull faces at me. Because we set up with that back 5 system, and because we have that defensive, like whether it's Jorginho in the midfield, deep lying playmaker and stuff like that. Genuinely, I think Maguire would suit our sort of system well, and we've seen it with England. Hence, why he hasn't let us down as much. When he
plays in a free, he's better. That's why he's at England. He plays in a free. They play deep. It's no good. I sound like Paul Merson here. I think I'm just quoting what he said. But it's true. When Maguire plays on the halfway line and a high line and is going to be turned, I mean, even the way he runs makes me feel a bit uncomfortable, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
He's just not a high line defender. He is a defender that heads a ball out, gets his body in the way of shots. Other than that, he's just not really progressed at United as a ball-playing centre-half who can play a high line. And for me, that means with Ten Hag's tactics and certainly with the possession-based football he wants to get to, he has to change the keeper. I know he had a good game, but he has to change the keeper. Go and get Gavin Bazunu in, and he has to change Maguire.
Yeah.
And I don't believe United can progress until them key positions have been addressed.
I think that's fair. I do really want to just quickly get onto this point. I know we're running a bit over time, but this is unpopular, and you guys are going to think I'm mental. But I was watching some highlights of Vidic, and one of the best defenders we've seen in the Premier League, all this sort of stuff. But I was actually thinking, the way he was going into tackles and the way he was, I think he genuinely, he wouldn't get away with half the stuff he was doing.
No, of course not.
No.
In today's
every 2 seconds.
Would he be a good centre-back? Oh, do you think he'd be a good centre-back?
Football, no, I think it's a really good point, Bill. In modern football, he might have struggled a bit. There's a lot of players that, but then, in modern football, there's players that potentially benefit from that sort of possession-based play. I don't think he necessarily would have been good. If you asked Vidic to play on the halfway line, would he have been? No, I think you make a good point. My answer to your question is no. I don't think he would have been anywhere near as good. But
he would have, unless he adapted his play, right? Because that's what will happen. Like,
I don't think he had the attributes because
fair.
you look at players now, like Saliba, for instance. Yeah, he's been loaned out, but clubs like Arsenal, the top clubs, you're not a centre half anymore. You're part of that system that is building the ball for an attack. It's all about position, and all the time that football's going this way. If you can't play ball and you're not quick and you can't play on the halfway line, your defenders like Tony Adams, Vidic, these hard, really good defending, even John Terry. I think no, Bill, don't hit me, all right, through the screen. I love John Terry. I'm just saying, in today's modern game, would he shine as much?
I think he would, only because of his intelligence. And the reason I say that is because of Thiago Silva. My man is 38 years of age, still playing like he's in his prime. Yes, he hasn't got as much pace.
Yeah, but Bill, Thiago Silva's playing a three at the back. You put Thiago Silva in a 4, playing on a halfway line trap, that is not how Chelsea play at all.
Yeah,
you're seeing Thiago Silva. Yeah, you're very lucky in Chelsea that you play wing backs and you play a free, solid, and your back line can push up almost when the wingers bomb on. They don't sit on the halfway line like United or Man City or even Arsenal now do. If you notice Chelsea, they offer a formation that probably still allows that play.
Just quickly, Michelle, this is down to you as the final thing of the night. What is your biggest fear for Arsenal going into 2023 from Tabriz?
Right, biggest fear, injuries and not buying any players in Jan. Because if those two things happen...
Who would you want?
That's a really good question. Who do you want? We need another striker. Who I don't know, to be fair. Who's out there?
There's a
It's whether you go young or experienced, right? Is the question. Or I think in Jan we can't take a chance on someone that's developing. We need someone that's like a established striker.
Dzeko?
No, he's too old now.
He's too old.
You may laugh
a lot of hate.
How about Mitrovic?
He's getting on a bit. How old is he? 31?
Yeah, 32
no,
maybe.
No. Mitrovic is younger than you think. He's one of these players. Yeah,
he looks like he's lived life.
You know what my knowledge is like? I'm going 28.
He's gonna get it right. He's gonna be spot on. I don't know. I'm thinking. I don't know. Someone like I hate to say it, Tammy Abrahams. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's 28.
He's 20. Of course. I knew as soon as Joe said it, I knew he was going to be right. But I think someone like a Tammy Abrahams, could be a good option. We just need a solid striker and potentially another. Because defense-wise, I think we could suffer with injury as well. Tierney's not consistent.
I've got another one who I'd potentially sign for Arsenal. This is a bit out there, so I know you're going to judge me.
Oh.
No. As a replacement for Jesus, in a sense of like for like, similar play. They are slightly different. But Ollie Watkins from Villa wouldn't be a bad little 25 mil. There's a player in Watkins.
But that's too much of a chance, though.
Nah, yeah, there's too much risk for Arsenal.
There's too much risk. You need someone that can just basically... Someone that can just basically hit the ground running.
Yeah, but there ain't many of them about, Shell. So you've got...
Yeah, Mitrovic is a bad shout.
If you can tell me players that are readily available, you could potentially sign. I must be missing people. I think it's a very difficult.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And I think you have to look at that almost second string people who are possibly capable of going up.
Wilson.
Ryan Ragwan said Wilson, but you're swapping an injury for an injury. I'm not buying anyone with glass legs.
Right.
But it's definitely a striker. We definitely need attacking options in Arsenal. I think that's the biggest fear. Like, we know that if we get to the World Cup, who's going to come back even injured, ready to play? Because obviously the games resume very quickly after.
Our man Eddie's he's not quite.
He's not it. He's not it. As much as I love him,
yeah, I really don't think he's it.
Right, guys, this has been a fantastic episode. Sorry, it's run over.
It's all right.
But
we'll let you off, Bill.
Yeah. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. and
Thank
we
you,
will see you
guys.
next week on Monday, 8 p.m.